Paul Newman was known for being a talented actor, but he was also a down-to-earth person. Despite his fame, he surprised people with his simplicity. What were his life goals, and what kind of father was he? Let's dive into the answers, some of which are bittersweet. If you like our Paul Newman exploration, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. Now, let's get started. Why did Paul Newman apologize? You know Paul Newman, the cool actor, but what about his life as a sports legend? His parents were into theater and sports. Paul worked at his dad's sporting goods store and was on track for a football scholarship until he got in trouble. He found a love for acting during a summer at Yale, leading to his first major role in the Silver Chalice in 1954. Despite mixed reviews, he criticized his own performance and even apologized for the movie. Was Joanne Woodward with Paul Newman when he died? Paul's love story with Joanne Woodward was special. They met during a Broadway show while he was married to his first wife. Joanne described him as perfect. They became a Hollywood power couple, working together in several movies. Despite occasional fights, their daughter Melissa observed their strong bond. They married in 1958, and looking at old photos, Melissa noticed a positive change in her dad after marrying Joanne. Melissa shared that life in her family wasn't always perfect. She mentioned feeling tension that came and went. Joanne, the firm one in the family, set the rules and pace, with Paul giving her credit for his sex symbol status. Despite occasional tension, Melissa saw her parents deeply in love. She believed if her dad could have only one thing on a deserted island, it would be Joanne. In Paul's final years battling illness, Joanne stood by him until the end. How many kids did Paul Newman have? He had 6 kids in total, 3 with his first wife, Scott, Susan, and Stephanie, and 3 with Joanne, Nell, Melissa, and Claire. Joanne was hands-on, opting for natural birth and nursing, unusual at the time. Paul critiqued his parenting but documented the journey. Melissa created a photo album called Head Over Heels to share their family's life. What did Paul Newman say of his son? Paul's son Scott followed his acting passion, appearing in films like The Towering Inferno. Father-son relations were strained. Paul's fairy tale life wasn't easy for Scott, who faced challenges during his parents' split. As Paul pursued his career in California, Scott struggled in Connecticut and faced expulsion from private schools. When Scott entered the world of acting and stunts, he appeared in movies alongside his father, Paul. Despite this, Scott chose not to ask Paul for financial help and took on odd jobs to support himself. Living in the shadow of his famous father was challenging, as he faced the constant threat of being accused of gaining success through family connections. Scott insisted, "I won't seek acting help from my father. I want my work to stand on its own merit." Unfortunately, Scott also struggled with drinking and faced occasional arrests for minor offenses. Paul was well aware of the impact he had on his son and the potential harm caused. In 1978, Scott experienced a severe motorcycle accident, leading to painkiller use. Eventually, he accepted financial assistance from Paul to address his drug-related challenges. Tragically, not long after, Scott Newman overdosed on Valium, alcohol, and other drugs at the age of 28. Paul Newman was deeply affected by this loss, expressing, "There's nothing you can say that will repair my guilt about Scott. It will be with me as long as I live." This guilt prompted a shift in Paul from a career-focused actor to a family man using his skills to help others. Who were Paul Newman's closest friends? Despite his success in acting, Paul Newman had conflicting feelings about himself. He didn't hold a high opinion of himself and often felt like an outsider. Describing himself as a freak, he believed girls saw him as a joke or a happy buffoon. Newman felt disconnected from his emotions, describing himself as a cerebral actor who calculated rather than felt. This self-perception may have contributed to his daring stunts, possibly an attempt to compensate for perceived shortcomings. Newman was known for his practical jokes, including cutting a director's car and desk in half and staging a fake accident in a beat-up car. Newman took his pranks to the next level by tossing a prop dummy off a building, making his director think he had jumped. He was quite the multi-talented individual. In a time when actors rarely ventured into creating their own brands, Paul Newman aimed high with salad dressing. His special blend of oil and vinegar became known as Newman's Own and was handed out to visitors. Surprisingly, he received assistance in the competitive salad dressing world from Martha Stewart, who lived in the same neighborhood. She conducted a blind taste test, declaring his dressing the best. A.E. Hotchner, an editor, playwright, and biographer, was perhaps Newman's closest friend. Despite their work connections, their bond strengthened as neighbors, sharing simple moments. Thanks to Hotchner, we learned about Newman's love for old, run-down boats with stories. They went fishing together, although Hotchner admitted they were both god-awful at it. Their friendship spanned 50 years and involved creative projects, including the establishment of the Hole-in-the-Wall Gang Camp. This free camp for children with cancer and other life-threatening conditions started as a local initiative, but grew into an international force. Newman's daughter Claire continued the legacy. When Paul Newman passed away, his most personal undertaking emerged from a tragic experience. The guilt he carried over his son, Scott's premature death, compelled him to establish the Scott Newman Center for Drug Abuse Prevention. The cause of Paul Newman's death was linked to his fondness for cigarettes. Despite quitting in 1986, the effects lingered, and reports suggested he was battling lung cancer. Although details about his health were initially unclear, by 2008, Paul faced limited mobility and succumbed to cancer on September 26 at the age of 83. His publicist later confirmed the cause. Even in his final moments, Paul Newman aimed to keep things light. According to his friend Hotchner, who saw him shortly before his death, their conversation focused on funny anecdotes. As Hotchner left, Newman remarked, "Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride." Paul Newman, a legend to everyone, but perhaps himself, carried the weight of his perceived shortcomings. Despite a fairy tale life and family, there was a darker past. He faced losses and gave back immensely. So a heartfelt thank you to Paul Newman for the lasting memories. Now we want to hear from you. What's your favorite Paul Newman project? Butch Cassidy, The Sting, Cool Hand Luke? Share your thoughts in the comments, along with any deep cuts you appreciate. And who should we explore next? If you enjoyed our deep dive, show your support with a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Most importantly, we thank you for watching from all of us here at Do You Remember? I'm back.